Today we're going to be talking all about Hegemon. Hey, welcome, I'm LeilaFox. Today's story is all about Hegemon. Hegemon is probably one of the most sought after champs in the game, and for good reason too. For those familiar with the game, we are well aware of his passive Fateful Arrival, which means he always goes first each round. And now with the AI priorities in the game, we can set him so his A2 goes first, which attacks all enemies and does a decrease attack and a block active skills, so it makes him a very powerful force to deal with in the arena. Knowing that Hegemon is a legendary Night Revenant, how exactly did he become a Night Revenant? So before we get into his story, let's take a look at the lore faction as a whole. Disciples of the Cleth Death Cult, the Night Revenant see themselves as vessels of the spirits of the dead of their order. They raid indiscriminately to capture slaves to support themselves and as ritual sacrifices. Upon initiation, devotees surrender their bodies to the spirits of dark warriors. So what we see with Night Revenants is they start as humans, and then for whatever reason, they end up joining this cult order. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is the story from Hegemon and how he became part of the Night Revenant from the Tellurian Lorebook of Champions. There are countless tales of valor and skill that the champions of Lumea have displayed over the millennia. Brave knights, whose skill with the sword is unmatched. Wise mages, by whose word alone mountains crumble. Daring rogues and stalwart soldiers. Yet, those who follow the dark path should not be underestimated either. The Hegemon is a commanding presence on any battlefield, his mastery of the blade only matched by his ability to direct his minions' attacks. He is said to have been a noble champion of his people once, and the bane of evildoers. He had defeated many foes in that past life, brought victory to many a battle. But such skill comes with pride more often than not, and with pride, the seed of arrogance that brought so many heroes low. Assured of his superiority and wisdom, the champion had renounced his liege, casted aside his vows and loyalties. Henceforth, he was known as the Hegemon, the one deserving ruler whose right was won by blood and by sword. Many of the soldiers under his command, swayed by the Hegemon's charisma, joined in his rebellion and marched upon the lands of his rivals. It took many months of bloody warfare and the joint efforts of Karok and Arabian border lords, as well as the mission of the Sacred Order to finally stop the Hegemon's campaign and defeat his army. Though the rebellious champion himself fled after single-handedly slaying the men-at-arms sent after him. His fall now complete, he swore bloody vengeance upon the people of Teleria and consigned his soul to Siroth and his mortal minions. One day, when his rivals among the renegade Night Revenant are defeated, the Hegemon will gather a new army and march upon Karok. Their champion shall fall to his blade, their people shall bow or face the consequences of denying his ambition. Okay, so that was the story for Hegemon, and what I really like about this is it does dive into his backstory. We find that he was a noble warrior who had beat many foes, had many victories, and pretty much had everything he wanted. And what I find as an interesting turn of events in this story is, and sometimes in stories when we have a backstory like this, we find that these champions go on to greatness. And in this story, we have that Hegemon actually goes in a different direction. So instead of continuing on in a good path, we have all of these victories. Everything that happened good for him actually caused him to become very prideful and very arrogant. And we even have the wording in there that says how this seed of arrogance brings many champions low. And that's exactly what we see with Hegemon. So he sets off on his own, he gets an army on his own, and he becomes so powerful that it takes many factions working together to take him down. And when this happens, then it looks like this is when he decides to join the Night Revenants. This looks like when he wants to work on trying to get his revenge and take over again. But it's also really interesting interesting how in the end of his story, it even says when his rivals among the Night Revenant. So even then, even that he's part of the Night Revenant, he's not really one of them. According to this lore story, technically he's just using them. He's using them, he's biding his time to be able to take what he feels is his rightful place again. Overall, I feel like this is a pretty good story. I feel like it's a really, really good backstory for a champion like Hegemon, and I think it fills in pretty well how he ends up going from being a human and how he ends up transitioning into Night Revenants. I would love to know what you guys think. Did you enjoy this story for Hegemon? Do you think it fits him pretty well? Leave me some comments down below and let me know what you think of this story. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, check out some more videos up here in the playlist on the top right.